UFC 261 delivered one of, if not the greatest fight cards I have ever seen. First card back with fans during this pandemic. Usman, Masvidal in the main event. What a crazy outcome of fights. We're going to talk about all of them. We're going to start it off from the undercard, work our way up to the top to the main event. Make sure you guys smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. And let's talk about the first fight. We'll briefly go over these undercard fights, but there are some ones we want to get a little more in detail about. Ariane Canralosi and Naliang. What a performance by Carneliosi in that fight. Beat her up on the ground. Naliang was gassed after that first round. Carneliosi looked to have her out of there at the end of it, and definitely does have an interesting future at 115. She does have a good skill set, and I am curious to see where she will go with Naliang taking the loss here. I still believe she'll be kept around in the UFC, but might not be ready for some of the more pressure fighter style females in that weight class. But now moving up, Jeff Molina and Quilang Aori. Excellent fight between both of these two. Honestly, fight of the night potential for sure. They were going at it. You saw at the end of that fight, Jeff Molina was actually in a bit of trouble. Aori had some great moments. Overall, that fight was fantastic. Good win there for Jeff Molina. Both of these guys, hot prospects at 125. Even for Aori losing, he looked really good in that first round. Just needs to make some adjustments, maybe slow the pace down a bit, because he was getting pieced up by Jeff Molina in that third round. He ate a lot of shots. His eyes were starting to shut. Good performance, though, by Jeff Molina. Possible fight of the night there. Definitely was a great scrap. Rodrigo Vargas and Zhu Rong. Rong had a lot of hype coming in. He was only 21 years of age, the youngest guy on the roster at this moment. Rodrigo Vargas, though, at 35, gave him a very difficult fight and actually got the win. Zhu Rong, he needed the finish, and he didn't get it. I do think it was a good learning experience. I think he's got a ton of potential, but right now it just wasn't his time yet. Vargas and him will both be sticking around on this UFC roster, and we'll see what they have next. But at this next fight, Dana Batragol quickly puts away Kevin Natividad. 50 seconds in, Batragol set up a beautiful hook as he was switching stances back. Oh my God. I mean, the card just started off with absolute fire with these fights, and Batragol, huge knockout there over Natividad. I like Natividad, but man, brutally was put away. Exciting fights at 135 for Batragol. He's gonna be around for a bit now. He's very good. Pat Sabatini and Tristan Connolly. Good last round for Connolly in that fight, but Pat Sabatini controlled well in the first two. That was a fair decision. Pat Sabatini getting it done, even though there was a different fight in the card that I don't agree with the decision at all. Then Brendan Allen, Paul Roberson had a good fight. But it was mostly controlled by Brendan Allen on the top position. As soon as they got there to the ground, Allen was doing good work. But then Roberson actually decided to shoot for a leg lock of his own, or a heel hook rather. And then Brendan Allen locks his up, and that's it. I mean, there was 5 seconds left, but in the heel hook position, it's tap or something's going to tear, and I'd much rather tap there, and Carl Roberson did the same. Brendan Allen is very dangerous on the ground. He's a very exciting submission specialist. I do think he'll get a pretty good fight next. After beating Roberson, he's definitely a prospect, and he beat Kevin Holland, so it's something to note. I don't think ranked guy just yet, but he's definitely moving more towards that after this win over Carl Roberson. Next fight, Dwight Grant. Absolute controversy, in my opinion. I had the fight for Stefan Sekulic, but I guess it wasn't as dominant as it needed to be to guarantee victory. Dwight Grant did some work in the fight and landed some decent shots, but I thought Stefan Sekulic put the pressure on him a bit with the grappling and stole the decision away. Granted, wasn't an amazing fight either way. I think maybe for Dwight Grant next, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking he would lose the fight and then maybe you do the Mike Perry fight. But now after a win, who knows what they'll do with him. He's over 35. See how much time he's going to have left and what he has left in the gas tank, really. And now this next fight was the featured prelim. Randy Brown, Alex Oliveira. Wow. Randy Brown beat Alex Oliveira to the punch. Put him down. There was some beautiful leg kicks there by Alex Oliveira, though, but with the hands, Brown had the clear advantage, and boom, the straight shot landed, dropped Alex Oliveira, and then he chokes him out with a one-armed rear naked choke. That's a super impressive submission. Randy Brown's going to be sticking around and probably fighting some top guys. I'll quickly look at who is ranked. It's going to be the Tapology rankings, so they're not the most accurate as far as like the UFC roster goes. But we'll check out who's ranked here at 170 pounds, possibly next for him. I apologize about the delay here. Tapology has him ranked 21 at welterweight. I don't know where he'd be with the UFC. I know he's unranked, but looking at him here, 21. See if we can find a guy like Daniel Rodriguez here at 25. I truly don't mind this fight, Daniel Rodriguez and Randy Brown. One thing that does hurt the stock of it is Rodriguez losing that fight recently to Nicholas Dalby. That's his name. I almost totally forgot. It was slipping my tongue. Maybe that's the fight they do. Maybe Warley Alves, but I do think they had a fight recently. Yeah, they did. They actually fought recently. He's had a lot of fights against everybody. Who knows really what they do? Maybe could see Robbie Lawler, but I think Robbie wants to get in sooner. I really don't know what they'll do. I like Daniel Rodriguez, but again, I don't know if they'll end up making that match. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Randy Brown and Daniel Rodriguez go at it. But now let's get to this main card. That was the featured prelim. If you haven't yet, smash that like button. Anthony Smith, Jimmy Crute. Crute has a ton of skills and so much potential, but man, the leg kick shut the leg down. Anthony Smith lands a beautiful one towards the end of that first round. Crute does land a takedown. Got to give him the respect. He was able to get on top of Anthony Smith with just minimal time in one leg, really. I mean, then he goes back to the corner. He's wobbling. They stop it leading up to the round. I mean, he couldn't walk on it. And I guess having to walk is definitely a requirement to being able to fight. And that's it. They stopped the fight. Leg injury. Anthony Smith caused the leg injury, so that is a legitimate TKO. Good performance for Smith. He'll move forward and stay alive as a contender in the weight class, which I do believe is a good thing at this point with the new champion being Jan Blachowicz. I mean, if Anthony Smith was able to get few more wins together, who knows? He could definitely be in the running for a world title shot. This is a big win for him here against Jimmy Crute, who I do think has a lot of potential in the weight class and will be back very soon. And I do think he's a contender 100% in the next 2 to 3 years. I think he's really pushing towards it, but he's only 25. Anthony Smith has been doing this a long time. He was able to get the win in this fight to start it off. Do I have a specific opponent that I want to talk about who's next? You know what? I'm going to pull up the UFC rankings. We're going to talk about it. Taking too long. You guys can slightly fast forward this part if you're impatient. But we'll get the rankings up for the UFC. And we'll talk about what I think could be next for both of them, truly. So, Jimmy Crute here. I'm going to be honest, I'm not giving an opponent for Jimmy Crute because I don't know what they're going to do. Anthony Smith, though, he's right around here. He wins. Magomed Ankalaev recently winning a fight. Not opposed to that fight at all. Assuming Ankalaev doesn't have anything booked. I think that actually could be the fight. I think that's also a really exciting matchup as well. Ankalaev is a hot prospect. Yeah, he just beat Krylov. I think you do Smith Ankalaev. I think Anthony Smith has popped his way back in. If Ozdemir isn't booked, maybe the rematch with Smith and Ozdemir if he doesn't want to go with the Ankalaev fight. But I do think the Ankalaev one could definitely be it. Overall, interesting fight that started the main card, but this fight was tragic, in my opinion. Uriah Hall and Chris Weidman, too. This is the rematch between them. Ends in true tragedy. The leg kick, just 17 seconds in, you see that there, snaps the shin of Chris Weidman. Happened with Anderson Silva when they fought, and it was on the opposite side of it. Now it happens to him. I don't know. I mean, that's crazy fluke luck in that situation. Fluke bad luck, truly. Sad moment for Chris Weidman. He's 36 years of age. This could be the end. To be 100% honest, that's a hard injury to come back from him. I do hope that he does, and I do hope we actually see him and Uriah Hall do a trilogy. They're 1-1 against one another. I was really curious how this fight was going to go. I thought it was the perfect matchup. I do think that's what I would like to see, but who knows how much time Chris Weidman will need after this brutal injury. I know Anderson was able to come back in a year and 2 months, but at the end of the day, that's not every case. Chris Weidman pushing 37 years of age at this point. He's had a very rough go, 13-0 at one point, now 15-6. His career has had a tremendous spiral downward, 2-6 in his last 8. And it truly is tragedy, this injury, man, and it's terrible to see. And it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, which is awful, in Chris Weidman. And he's always a great fighter and always a tough customer, so God bless Weidman, and hopefully he'll be okay and able to come back because he was a great champion. And I do really hope I get to see him fight again. And I was super excited for this fight with Hall because I felt like it was a great matchup and we were going to get maybe the best out of both guys. Hall will move forward in the weight class and we have to treat this as a victory. And assuming that there won't be a time frame for Weidman coming back for a while, this is not going to be a fight that's run back immediately. Who's a name for Uriah Hall? After this one, really going to be another case of who's available. Believe. Actually, let me pull up the Tapology rankings just simply because I want to check who's booked because the UFC rankings for some reason tell you just on the site. I don't want to click around too much. All right, let's see if we can find Uriah Hall. Number 10, Uriah Hall. They're fairly accurate. Okay, Darren Till isn't booked. I like Uriah Hall, Darren Till. Darren Till does have a collarbone injury, but assuming he's able to come back in a reasonable amount of time, I like that fight. If I'm not going that fight, I actually really like Uriah Hall versus Jared Cannonier. I think that's an entertaining bout, and I would be curious to see which way that would go. And if not, there's another name I have to throw out there. Assuming if Costa's unavailable for Robert Whittaker, Derek Brunson and him, I don't think the rematch is going to happen, to be honest. I wouldn't be opposed to Uriah Hall and him. Granted, it would be a total disrespect to Whittaker, who's the number one guy, fighting somebody as far back in the rankings, but it would just be more of a stay busy fight since the UFC decided to book Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. So Whittaker's going to have to wait. If he wants to stay busy and Costa's unavailable, I feel like this fight here with Uriah Hall, outside of Derek Brunson, who we already defeated, it's the only guy available coming off a win inside this top 10. So I feel like Uriah Hall, Robert Whittaker, maybe is the fight to make. Maybe. We'll see what the UFC decides to do. But overall, very tragic fight here and a very sad outcome for Chris Weidman. But we do hope he'll be okay and be able to come back relatively soon, maybe in the next year and a half or two, and at least fight one last time for us. Valentina Shevchenko puts on as dominant performance as you can get, out grapples Jessica Andrade. Andrade felt that she had an advantage in the grappling department. Well, let's just say Valentina Shevchenko shut down any relative question about her grappling after that Jennifer Maia fight. Absolutely destroyed Jessica Andrade, who is a skilled black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the ground. Gets her in the crucifix in the second round, unloads. The ref is forced to stop it. I mean, the ref took a while to stop it. The face of Andrade got busted up. It was one-way traffic. Andrade couldn't just rush forward because Valentina would counter her. And then in the clinch situations, Valentina was able to engage on her terms, throw around Jessica Andrade. She put a beating on her. I don't know who is next. I love the idea of Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko. That's a fight that I want to see. And I do believe that could be what is next between her and Valentina's trilogy, because I think it deserves to happen. They should fight that third time. For Andrade, I do believe she'll probably still get a top girl somewhere in this flyweight division, but it's very hard to see her fighting in a rematch with Valentina. It's a long road back to a title shot. But I do like Jessica Andrade, always a class act and a fighter you got to give a ton of respect to, former world champion. And I do hope she has some success, whatever her future venture is. Maybe a drop back down to 115 where Rose Namajunas is champion. They could somehow set up a trilogy. I don't know. We'll see what's next for Andrade. But let's talk about Rose Namajunas, who put to sleep the Chinese superstar Weili Zhang Weili. Wow, the head kick. Left head kick, boom, to the chin, done. 1 minute and what? 1 minute and 18 seconds into the first round. Beautifully set up. When Rose Namajunas is on, she is one of the greatest mixed martial arts strikers, period. Forget about males and females. Her technique is flawless, and that was a beautiful knockout. Rose Namajunas gets the world title back, wins by upset here. I couldn't have happened to a better person. I couldn't have been happier seeing that fight. God bless Rose. She looked fantastic. Zhang Weili will be back. She's game as they come. What is next for both girls? It's a tricky situation. I don't know if they'll book the immediate rematch. Simply would be because it's not like Zhang Weili has had this long reign as champion. She just recently won the world title. I feel like idea for you guys, and I think that some of you OG fans that know will want to see it, once again, Carla Esparza, Rose Namajunas 2. You know that Carla Esparza beat her in the Ultimate Fighter finals and became the first ever champion in this division, women's strawweight. I love to see them run it back, and that's the fight that I would pick to see next. Carla Esparza rematch, Rose Namajunas, what would be a huge fight. I think at least for the hardcores. Granted, the casual eye probably would be like, who's Carla Esparza? I wouldn't be as impressed by her, but the history and the backstory, that's something I want to see again. And potentially Rose would write that wrong off. She'd be a two-time champion. She fought for the title early before that. Just an amazing career for Rose. We knew she was special from the moment she burst onto the scene on The Ultimate Fighter, and to knock out Zhang Weili like this just cements her as elite status world champion, and probably locked herself up for a future in the UFC Hall of Fame now with 2 championship runs. I mean, this is just fantastic. We'll see what's next, but I like the idea of Carla. For Weili, Zhang Weili, depends how much time she needs off. I don't know really where they will go for sure, but I will say there's a lot of contenders on the rise. Could also set up Yan X Yan fight, but really, kind of feel like, who knows? Maybe it's Joanna and Jacek run that back. Who knows? Who knows? I really don't know what they do here. This is going to be the UFC's decision, and it's going to be about how much time is needed for Zhang Weili to recover after this brutal knockout in the first. Kamaru Usman, they said he wasn't for the baddest motherfucker title. Well, I think he just stole that from Masvidal, as well as defending his world title. He put it on Jorge Masvidal. Competitive fight in the first round. I will say Usman did have the upper hand, landed some takedowns, landed some decent strikes, but Masvidal was definitely 100% in the fight. And Jorge Masvidal gets put to sleep by a beautiful straight right down the center line, switching the weight over and shifting. It was beautiful. It put Masvidal unconscious. One of the best punch knockouts we've seen in MMA history. Jorge Masvidal's first ever knockout loss. It was devastating. It was extremely impressive, and it proves that Kamaru Usman is the realest of deals. I believe that Usman is going to be tricky to beat. I don't know who is going to beat this man right now at 170 pounds. He just put to sleep Jorge Masvidal on the feet in his strength. That's a bad motherfucker. And if anybody deserves the double title, it's going to be truly on both shoulders now, because Usman can do it all. He'll out wrestle you all night, and he can also knock you out. He has evolved. There's a name that I like for Kamaru Usman, and it's somebody who's fighting against Gilbert Burns, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I want to see that fight, but first, probably going to see the Colby Covington trilogy. I think Usman is going to smash a hole in Colby Covington's face, and I'm truly sick of Usman getting booed. Can we stop booing this guy? He deserves some respect. He's an excellent champion, a star right now. I mean, skill set wise, this is pound for pound the number 1 guy in the world. He's come another level at this point, and I feel like it's straight to the top from here. Kamaru Usman is the realest of deals, and he's the number 1 guy. I think number 1 pound for pound. I think people are going to start tuning into his fights now after this brutal knockout of Masvidal. It wasn't like that first fight. I'm really excited to see what's next for Usman. Probably Colby. I think he wins that fight, and I think down the line we set up that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, and if there's anybody besides Anthony Pettis who somehow has the craziest knockout win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and put Stephen out as well, it would be Usman. But first, Wonderboy's going to have to get past very serious testing Gilbert Burns. For Jorge Masvidal, tough loss, man. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow, but as a real guy like Masvidal is, you can tell he has a lot of respect after that for Usman, because he beat him at his game, and he's not going to complain. He didn't like the footsie in the first fight and just holding against the cage. He got knocked out, and that's the respect that Masvidal will always have. He's always carried that, and he honors his opponent here, even in defeat. What's next for Jorge Masvidal? I believe there are a couple of options. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz, loser. I like that option. Another option, which I think is on the horizon, is Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz was at the event. I think Nick Diaz and Jorge Masvidal is a huge fight, and I think it sells crazy numbers, and I think Jorge would be down to do it. I feel like Jorge is still a top guy. I'm disappointed that he probably won't ever be able to win that world title unless they introduce like a 162.5 pound class or something crazy, a 163 pound weight class. I don't think he's touching Kamaru Usman as long as he's champion. Be a difficult way to sell a trilogy, but who knows if he goes on a crazy streak. I do like the possible Nick Diaz fight, or as I said, the loser of Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz. Overall, this was one of, if not the greatest cards of all time. The action was jam packed, and the event was absolutely spectacular. UFC put it on. Jacksonville, gotta bless them for hosting this. Fantastic work. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And also follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. See you all next video.